So, I've been seeing a ton of new stuff about ChatGPT, as I'm sure all of you have too. Curiously, I tried it out and was absolutely blown away. It was crazy how well I was able to understand things and intuitively answer questions. With this, I thought to myself that this could almost completely replace Google in my life. And that got me thinking, could I make a game without using Google? And that's the entire premise for this video. Making a game without being able to Google anything. So let's get started. First of all, I needed to know what type of game I was going to create. So what better to do than to turn to our AI overlords and ask them what they think. So after a couple of questions, ChatGPT kept suggesting an endless runner type game. So finally, I bit and asked what type of infinite runner game I should make. It spat out a couple of ideas, and one that I really liked was having the main theme of the game be skateboarding, where you just played as a skateboarder who was cruising along. I thought that sounded really fun and started right away. First thing I needed to do was get the level and the player movement all worked out. The way I was going to make the player move was instead of moving the player, I would move the ground underneath the player and just have it move from right to left, making it seem like he was just zooming along. That was pretty easy to work out, so then came the hard part. Getting the level to spawn underneath you, without you, the player, even being able to notice. With a little bit of help from ChatGPT, I decided to make it so the ground spawned in individual pieces and moved them across the screen. And every time the piece went off the screen to the left, a new one would spawn on the right. So I started making this happen. The way I was going to set this up would make it look pretty seamless and would make it so the level could be randomly generated and make it feel interesting and unique. After not too long, I got that system working and then started working on some of the player movement mechanics. I wanted the player to be able to jump and double jump, use one-way platforms, and automatically return back to the center if he got bumped. The double jump wasn't very hard to work up at all, and for the one-way platforms, I decided to ask ChatGPT. And with the little help, I got that quickly worked out. At this point, I started to truly see the value of AI as a tool and started saying thank you after every question that it happily answered. One thing that gave me a little bit more struggle than I expected was making the player return to the middle of the screen. I tried a couple of ways to make it happen. First, I just tried to move the player back to the center of the screen. Easy, right? But that ended up not working because the player would just smash through walls and everything to get back to the middle. After a couple of different tweaks and ideas, I had a system that added a force based on how far you are away from the middle, and it took a little bit to get all the setting up perfect, but it got there in the end. This is when something absolutely groundbreaking happened. It all started normally, with me telling ChatGPT thanks, as usual. But this is when something crazy happened. It responded with the usual, "You're welcome," but then it added, "Good luck with your game development." I'll just leave it at that. It absolutely blew my mind. After that, I was done with most of the main features of the game, and it was time to start working on the art. First off, I chose to go with pixel art, because I found it's easy to make and many times looks better than not pixel art. So then came the next question. What resolution should I make the art in? Time to turn to ChatGPT. After a couple of talks with it, we decided on 32 by 32. A resolution I haven't worked with before, but I went with it. Sadly, ChatGPT can't make images. Yet. So I broke my own rule and went to Google for some references. With an idea in mind, I went to low spec to find a color palette. All this ready, I started making the art. First off, I started with the main player in the game. For him, I decided to base him off one of my best buds. So obviously, it ended up looking absolutely amazing. Next, I started on the environment. For the ground, I made just a generic concrete block. After that, I made a railing for the player to ride on and a pipe hanging from the top. With those done, I made a traffic cone and finally a coin. Let's not forget that. And called it a day. With all of this art drawn, it was finally time to put it into the game. I put all the art into the game and was ready to go. But sadly, I had to take a break from the game to work on another project that you may or may not see soon. Once back, I was ready to start working on the next thing, which turned out to be the score. So I started out on this. I thought it would be fun and easy just to make the score rise So after a bunch of work, your score would automatically increase with how far you ended up going. But wait, just as I finished, I realized one thing. Remember the coin I drew? I sure didn't. I'd made the entire score system before I realized that I had drew the coin, so I had to rip out the entire old system and add the coin system in, which sucked but worked good in the end. AI can only do so much to help when you're completely a smooth brain. At that point, I had truly realized how helpful ChatGPT was, and I truly used it a ton. I can see it taking the place of many things that I would just Google. Back on the game, I was mostly done with it. I just had a couple of small things to add and change. First off, I added the end screen and a bunch of other small effects. With this all in there, it was time to add sound effects, but what sound effects do I need to add? Why not ask ChatGPT? And lo and behold, it spat out a list of 10 objects I could add. I chose a couple to add and started working on it. For both the jump and the coin collect sound, I went to a free sound effect generator online and made a couple of sound effects, and I was really happy with how they turned out. With the skateboard rolling sound and the background music, I found them online and got some that I really liked. With all this figured out, I just had to put it into the game and call it a day. And finally, I was on to the last thing, the title screen. I made a bunch of cool elements and got it all set up, but I was missing one thing, the title. Time to go back to our bestest bud, Mr. GPT. I asked it what to call the game. Then I had it narrow it down to one absolutely amazing title, Shred City Skateboarding. Absolutely perfect. Those were all the main features added. Time to ask what more I needed to add. You know what? Nah, I think I'm done. With everything finished up, it was just time to add more level segments to make the game seem a lot more dynamic and engaging, whatever that means. But after I got this all done up, the game seemed really fun and interesting. With this done, all I was left with was to build and export the game so you can all play it. And guess what? It actually worked the first time. I know, absolutely crazy. But now that the game's done, I have to make the video and write the script for it and all that nonsense. But wait. I need to make a quick game. Something simple yet addictive and fun. I have an idea. That's it! A game where the player controls a character who has to jump over obstacles and collect coins. The more coins they collect, the higher their score, and the more obstacles they avoid, the longer they can keep playing. This is shaping up to be a great game. Now I just need to add some graphics, sound effects, and music. It's done. The game is now available for everyone to play. I can't wait to see how it does. Okay, back to me now. Overall, I actually really loved using ChatGPT and super interesting in seeing where it goes. For the challenge, I guess I did cheat a little bit, but I'd say it's definitely possible to make a game without using Google at this point. This was a really fun challenge, and if any of you have any suggestions for another challenge, I'm all ears. The game I made was actually really fun, and I'll have the link for its itch page down below. Thanks to those of you who are still watching to the end of this nonsense. If you like this video, then like and subscribe. If you didn't, don't. Or whatever. I'm not your mom. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.